Well, welcome back to the No Neutral Moments podcast. So this is a little bit different for me. For most of you who have known the No Neutral Moments podcast, you've listened to me just on traditional podcast in your car or your when you're working out or you're running or whatever it is. But this go round, we have all of the above, and plus I'm just going to do a couple of short sessions just by myself to talk to you, especially after the first of the year. We've got more episodes coming of exciting people that we've interviewed. But one of the questions I get asked most often, and I think I get asked the question because I've had, sort of significant career changes in my life from one episode when I'm in my 20s, and then a major transition in my 30s and 40s, and then a major transition into politics. And one of the questions I get asked quite a bit is, how do you determine when to make a life transition? How do you determine if it's the right decision to make? What questions do you ask yourself? And first time I was asked this question was probably about 15 years ago. And I started just working on a list. Someone asked me the question, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes along and asks me the question, or I get an email from somebody and they want to know, or someone wants to go have coffee or have a drink and have a discussion about making a decision. So I just started this process of making a list, and what do I go through? And what are the questions I ask for myself? And then I started emailing this out to a few people who would ask me the same question. I thought, you know what? It's the beginning of the year. This is usually the time of year when we start asking ourselves about our future, or are we doing the right thing? And so I thought I'd just go ahead and drop a few episodes on really the decision-making progress. And I've had all kinds of different titles for this. Sometimes it's just called the test of transition. I wrote on my notes 7 questions in the face of change and opportunity. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these questions with each episode. Hopefully it'll give you 10 or 15 minutes to think about each question, and then you can take them with you during the week and start making notes and start journaling. And hopefully this will help you as you're starting to make decisions about your life and where you're headed. And I think all of these questions fit regardless of where you are in life. So if you're in your 20s and you're trying to make a career change, or if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, or even if you're in your 60s or 70s and you're trying to think about a new opportunity. So we'll just dive right in and get started. And the first one I've written down, and I've kept it this way for the longest time, is what I have called the test of your calling or your mission. Now, I'm not a big fan of mission statements. Let me just put that on the table right now. I think a lot of times individuals, I think companies, they put up these big mission statements, and a lot of times they really haven't thought about who they are at their core. So when I say it's a test of your calling or it's a test of your mission, there are a couple of other things that I've written down. I'll just read them to you and I'll talk about them for just a little bit. One is, within your ultimate calling, does the mission seem to be an advancement of your calling? So now let me back up. The first question you have to ask is, okay, what's my calling? What am I actually here on this earth to do? For me, I come from a fairly strong Christian or evangelical background. And so when somebody asks me, what's your mission? What is it you're after with your life? I go back to a story in the Bible where some religious people asked Jesus what the most important commandment was. What's the most important directive for life? And he summed it up with 2 answers. He said, look, love God with all of your being. In the Bible, it says, love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That really just means love him with everything you've got. And then it says the second thing is love others. So love God and love others. There's some other directives within the Bible if you claim to be a Bible follower or a Jesus follower and follow his word. But for me, I've just boiled my mission down to, am I doing something in life where I can love God and love people? Now, you may have something a little more elaborate than that, but for me, it really opens the door wide open for other decisions I might make in life. My mission is pretty clear. Whatever I'm doing, I want to love God better, love him with everything that I've got, and I want to be loving people better. If you have more details to your mission statement, then you're going to have to work through that. But this first test is, whatever decision I'm about to make, does it fit within the overall calling and direction of my life? Another thing that I wrote down is, are your priorities in order so you can make a clear decision? What do I mean by that? So we're talking about this test of your calling. This is more a word of caution. I have seen people start asking questions about their life and their career, and the reason they're asking questions about their life and their career is because other things in their life seem to be in shambles. Their finances are in shambles. Their relationships or their marriage is in shambles. They're having issues with their children. They're having issues at a current place of employment. So other things are not in order. So then they start thinking, well, maybe the bigger question is not in order. I actually think sometimes you need to get the smaller things in order before you start asking the bigger questions. And then when you have the smaller things in order, then you can start asking, okay, what's the bigger thing that I need to do? Another way to look at that, a lot of people want to be leaders, but they don't manage the day-to-day things in their lives well. They don't manage the compartments of their life well, but they still think they want to be a leader. I don't think you're a great leader unless you're a great manager of your time and your resources, and you earn leadership by the way you manage your time and your resources and relationships with other people. So if you're thinking about a huge decision, a career transition, a relationship transition, just make sure you have your mission in place and you're walking in that mission and you're committed to that mission. Because wherever you go, the mission has to stay the same, or the calling has to stay the same. In my life, when I settled in on, no matter where I go, the mission's the same. I'm gonna love God and love people. It really just opened up more avenues for me to make decisions, and also realizing this probably won't be the last decision that I make. Years ago, I wrote this quote down. I said, the question rests on the assumption that you have a clear grasp on the ultimate mission of your life, and you're sure that you're using your design and your calling for the most effective impact of your mission. Last thing I'll say about this test. Many people who will come to me and say, hey, I'm really trying to figure out whether to make this huge transition in my life. If I ask them what their values are, if I ask them what their objectives are, if I ask them what their roles are in life, many times they haven't even thought about those issues, which tells me they're usually making a decision because they don't have their mind made up about their mission, or they're simply making a decision based on money. So the bottom line of this first test, whether it's a question of change or opportunity, is make sure you're steady and you're solid in your mission. And if you want to use the word your calling, that's fine. And I would even wrap up in this same one, the vision you have for your life. What's the vision of where you want to go? These things, these bigger questions have to be settled in your life, as well as that little piece I talked about making sure the other areas of your life aren't in chaos and you're just trying to ask a bigger question to avoid the minor issues related to the chaos going on in your life. So that's test number one. That's question number one. Where are you in your mission, your calling, and your vision? And realizing, and many people disagree with me on this, which is fine. I think mission, vision, and calling all really kind of wrap up in one thing. And it's where you're headed with your life and why you're doing what you're doing with your life, which is a huge, huge question. And then you can start asking bigger questions underneath that. So number one, the test of your mission, the test of your calling, the test of your vision. How does it settle? And usually the answer is, yeah, I think this is going to settle well with that, or no, this is not even going to be close to it. Test number two, I've called this one for years the test of alignment. And what I mean by alignment is you start paying attention to what other people and circumstances are saying into your life about this. Now, I have this little process I go through called a 90-180. So if I'm facing a huge decision or I'm trying to get my mind made up about something, I'll take 90 days, and you've heard me talk about this on other podcasts, and one of the very old podcasts I did in the early days of the No Neutral Moments podcast was about this 90-180. I'll take 90 days. That's just a quarter. It's about 3 months. Nothing magical about that. It's just what I settled in on. You could do 30 days. You could do 2 weeks, whatever works best for you. And then I figure out what the question is. So let me kind of replay this. So 90 days, you choose whichever days work for you. For me, I've been doing 90-180s for probably 10 years, maybe a little less. I'm going to take 90 days. I'm going to get a journal. And then with that journal, I'm going to write down what the one question is I'm trying to resolve. Sometimes it's 2. I try to never be focusing on more than about 3 questions. So most of my 90-180s, I'll write down 3 questions and then usually whittle it down to 1 or 2. And then I'm going to spend 90 days in my personal life. That's the only thing I'm going to be praying about spiritually. And then I'm going to, everywhere I go, everything I read, everything I listen to, I'm listening to see if something is being said to me about a decision I'm trying to make. And usually about every day, every other day, I'm going to journal entry what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and what I'm thinking about that decision. And the reason this plays into this alignment piece is because usually when I'm going through a 90-180 process, I get all kinds of information coming from places I would have never expected. And here's what I mean by that. If you've ever bought a new car, or even a used car, but it's one that you like and you love the color and you love the interior and you think nobody else has that car, and let's say you buy, the red car syndrome, you've heard about that. So you buy the red car and then you get out on the road and all of a sudden you find out like everybody has the same car you just bought because you're paying attention to that color. What I have found in the 90-180 process is when I really start focusing on a question, I think this is in alignment with my mission and my vision and my values. Now I'm looking for alignment. All of a sudden, my antenna are up and somebody says something that I go, you know what, that means something to me. And they may not even know it. Or I'm reading a book and there's a quote in the book. I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of speaking to me. Or I'm listening to a podcast. My goodness, that's kind of speaking to me. And so I'm looking for areas of alignment. There's an old theologian that I listened to years ago who had some categories of alignment that he was looking for when he was trying to make a decision. And he said, if you're someone who reads the Bible, he says, does the Bible seem to confirm what you're thinking or what you're trying to change? I left out that in the 90-180, the reason I call it 180 is I'm looking for a 180-degree change of direction. And if I don't have a change of direction after about 90 days, I'm just going to keep going in the direction I'm going. So he says, does God's word confirm what you're asking? Do circumstances line up? So are you starting to see circumstances that say, yeah, this is a way that I should go. This seems to be pointing in a direction I should go. I wouldn't make a decision based on circumstances, but again, I'm looking for alignment. Dr. Blackaby says, does the Holy Spirit agree? I would say it this way for those who may not understand that very well. Is there a sense in your soul that this is the right thing to do, which assumes you're keeping your soul healthy? And then this other aspect, he says, is do you have a peace about it? So when I go through the whole 90-180 and I'm checking for alignment, that's ultimately what I'm looking for is, do I have a peace about this? Doesn't mean everything's perfect. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a mistake. Doesn't mean I could possibly make the wrong decision, but am I at least looking for alignment? I'll give you one other way to think about alignment. I wrote it this way years ago. Is the community communicating a change to me? Are my personal counselors communicating a change to me? And in my meditation, am I sensing that a change needs to occur? So community, are the people around me speaking change into my life? Are my counselors, my spouse, my friends speaking change into my life? Is my soul and my meditation saying, yeah, this is a way we should go? And if these things are lining up, so question number one, mission, vision, my values, my whole mission in life says, I could go this direction. And then I'm looking for alignment. When those things start to line up, I may not make the decision completely just yet, but I'm pretty close to saying, you know what? I think I'm getting down the road of making that decision. So there's two questions for you to be asking yourself when you're thinking about making a major change, making an adjustment in your life, realizing that every second, every moment is not neutral. So you're paying attention to everything that you're doing, and you're at least asking yourself two questions to begin with. Does this line up with my mission and vision? And is there alignment in all the different areas of my life? What are people speaking into my life? What am I hearing from different resources I trust? What am I hearing from people as I trust a few people with the things that I'm trying to ask myself and do? Two questions. I hope that helps you as you start making big decisions or even small decisions in your life and remembering there's no such thing as a neutral moment. I'll give you two more on the next episode.